Now we're going to go live to Bogota and our correspondent Natalia Margarita for more on the details of Colombia's peace process in this latest ceasefire called by the FARC. Hello, Natalia. Let's talk about that ceasefire. You know, the FARC has entered into ceasefires before. What makes this one different or important?
Yeah, in fact, this is the sixth unilateral ceasefire that the FARC has implemented since the beginning of these peace negotiations back in November 2012. What makes it different is that President Juan Manuel Santos has announced himself that he will be implementing de-escalation measures in an attempt to somehow reciprocate these latest gesture of the FARC of the unilateral ceasefire. So in a way, this has opened up the possibility, Cody, that we Colombians can have perhaps a bilateral ceasefire before a final peace agreement is reached there in Havana, Cuba, where both delegations from the government and the FARC have been negotiating.
And Natalia, all this is taking place, of course, in the context of the peace dialogue. It continues to take place in Havana, Cuba, and it's been going on now for nearly 3 years. So let's talk about the big picture. How are the parties dealing with some of the sticking points that still exist in the dialogue? Some of those are victims' rights and holding those responsible for human rights abuses accountable. Talk to us about the larger picture here.
Well, we have to say that this is the most advanced peace talks in the more than 50 years of armed conflict in Colombia, meaning that no other previous peace negotiations has advanced this further as the current ones. There is a negotiation agenda of 5 points, and out of those 5 points, both the FARC and the government have already agreed on 3 of those 5 points. That is rural development, political participation, and the issue of crops of illegal usage and drug trafficking. So what is left is basically 2 points, Cody. One of those is right what you just mentioned, that is the victims issue. Right now they are currently trying to figure out the issue of transitional justice, how all actors that have played a role within these more than 50 years of armed conflict are going to hold accountable, and how they are going to compensate the victims. Here it's important to say also that as many social organizations here in Colombia, but also organizations of victims have pointed out, is that it is really, really important to make sure that all actors that have been involved, that have played a role, can be held accountable, meaning not just the FARC, but also the state, also economic sectors that have played a role and have sponsored directly, for instance, paramilitary groups here in Colombia. So at the moment they are dealing with this issue of victims, with the issue of truth that has to do with what I just mentioned, and the issue of transitional justice. Right after the 4th point of the negotiation, which is what I just said, will come like the 5th point of the negotiation, that is the technicalities and details and logistics of the end of the armed conflict itself, Cody.
All right, Natalia, we'll continue to watch those peace dialogues in Havana, Cuba. Meanwhile, it is good to be talking about de-escalation and not escalation as we were just a few months ago. Natalia, thank you.